Duane Chapman, also known as Dog the Bounty Hunter, has a whopping 12 kids total. Who are they really? Where are they now? Is one of them really in jail? Stay tuned to find out the real truth about Dog the Bounty Hunter's kids. Duane Chapman's first son, Christopher Michael Hecht, came into this world in July 1969. But Duane didn't know Christopher was his son until much later. Christopher's mother, Debbie White, was someone Duane dated when they were both teenagers. Tragically, White committed suicide when Christopher was 5, at which point he was adopted by a woman named Gloria Hecht. According to Gloria, when Christopher turned 19, Duane made contact with his son for the first time. But things didn't stay easy. Allegedly, Duane's then-wife, the late Beth Chapman, had a tough time accepting Christopher into their family dynamic. Gloria revealed to the U.S. Sun, when he learned Duane was his father, he was ecstatic. They started a relationship. Beth didn't get along with Chris because he was a few years younger than her. She did not treat Chris good, and they did not like each other at all. According to Gloria, this impacted Duane's relationship with his son, and there was more friction as the years progressed. Currently, he's serving a 3-year prison sentence with a release date set for November 2023.
Love is too strong sometimes.
No, it ain't. Jail's stronger. The bars are going to hold the love in.
For Duane's part, his rep spoke to the outlet, saying, "I've helped Chris numerous times and will again when he is released from prison." Duane Chapman's first marriage was to LaFonda Sue Darnell. On January 21, 1973, they welcomed a son, Duane Lee Chapman II. Duane Lee grew up in Pampa, Texas, and became a bounty hunter himself, starring alongside his father on the A&E reality show Dog the Bounty Hunter. Duane Lee ended up leaving the series in 2012, purportedly over a conflict with his dad's wife, Beth Chapman.
I'm tired of being told where to sit, where to eat, what to wear, how to dress, where to go. I can't do that no more.
Beth was clearly more involved in the financial side of things than her husband was, and Duane Lee felt that his financial compensation didn't match how much work he put into the series. Beth talked with Channel Guide magazine in 2013 about the incident, saying, "Children grow up, and how long can you work for your mom and dad? You become 40 years old and you're not married and you're like, why am I still hanging around my dad? You know what I mean? At some point you feel like there's got to be changes made." As a result, Duane Lee launched his own bail bond company in Florida. Of all of the Chapman children, Duane Lee might be one of the most private. Since exiting the show, he deactivated his social media, and there are scant details available about his personal life. He married Teresa R. Roybal in 1999, but they divorced in 2008. While they didn't have any kids, Duane Lee has a son, Dylan Chapman, from before his marriage. Duane Chapman and LaFonda Sue Darnell welcomed their second child, Leland Blane Chapman, on December 14, 1976. Similar to his brother, Leland also joined in the family bounty hunting business, yet around 2012 he also stepped away from the show.
It's hard to do something when you don't believe in it anymore, you know?
Leland eventually reconciled with his father and Beth Chapman, and he appeared on their spin-off series On the Hunt in 2013. Beth spoke to Channel Guide magazine about the reunion, saying, "The focal point of the show is our relationship and our relationship with Leland, because Leland wants to stay with his dad. Duane says this really profound thing where he says, 'I don't love you more, son, but you probably love me more than any of the other kids.' He doesn't want to be the one to leave or go away. He wants to be the one staying right here." Since then, Duane and Leland have stayed united. In August 2019, Leland shared a post on Instagram notifying fans that he and his dad would be appearing together at an event. Then in October 2021, Leland was a guest on News Channel 11, where he discussed his father's involvement in the search for Brian Laundrie following the death of Gabby Petito. Leland was in Tennessee and couldn't help because of his own caseload, but he was in close contact with his dad. Clearly, they're two peas in a pod. Duane served time in the Texas State Penitentiary for a first-degree murder charge after the birth of his two sons, Leland and Duane Lee. While he was behind bars, LaFonda Sue Darnell divorced him. In 1979, Duane then married Ann M. Tengel, and on January 1, 1980, the two welcomed their first child together, Zebadiah Chapman. Tragically, he died less than a month later, on January 31st. It was revealed by Duane's late sister that Zebadiah had been born prematurely and, quote, lived far beyond what medical science said he would. Back in 1980, Duane was not yet a reality star, and so we have no comments from him at the time of his grief. However, the shock of losing his young child must have been similar to the pain he felt in losing his late wife, Beth Chapman, to cancer in 2019.
That's all there is in life. Family.
While it seems to be the Chapman family tradition to join the world of bounty hunting, some went their own way. Duane Chapman and Ann Tengel's son, Wesley Chapman, who was born on November 14, 1980, did just that. He and his wife, Jody Chapman, run Chapman Springs Ranch in northern Idaho, which specializes in ski-joring. For the uninitiated, ski-joring is the combination of horseback riding and skiing.
Ski-joring is probably one of the most exhilarating sports that you can do in the winter with a horse and skis.
But when it comes to his relationship with his father, Wesley has had a bumpier ride. In a September 2019 Instagram post, Wesley described his relationship with Duane, indicating that his dad wasn't a part of his life growing up, saying, "First of all, there's my dad, a man I never knew for 38 years. Yet there he stands by my side with God giving us a second chance to reconnect. Having my dad in my life has been a dream, but it was a journey to get here." Duane Chapman's third marriage was to Lyssa Rae Britton. On June 8, 1982, they had a daughter named Barbara Katie Chapman. Tragically, Barbara died in May 2006 at the age of 23. She was a passenger in a stolen SUV at the time of the accident. According to State Trooper Jeremy Stone, there is no clue as to why they left the roadway. There are absolutely no skid marks on the road. They just went off the road, hit an embankment, and launched. Troopers considered that alcohol or illicit substances may have been a factor in the tragedy. Barbara died the night before Duane's wedding to Beth Smith. In light of the event, he considered postponing the nuptials. However, the family opted to go through with the wedding and honor Barbara at the event.
I know for sure that my mother and father are in heaven. And yesterday, they got their little baby Barbara back.
Duane Chapman and his then-wife, Lyssa Rae Chapman, had another son, Tucker Dee Chapman, on September 8, 1983. Tucker has had a tumultuous relationship with the law and his father, Duane Chapman. In 2007, he was arrested on charges of armed robbery at the age of 18 and slapped with a prison sentence of around 2 decades. However, after 4 years, Tucker was released on parole.
You don't see the inside of these rooms unless you're in me here. But it's good to be here for you, know what I mean?
Tucker Chapman and his father hit a rough patch in 2007. Duane Chapman appeared to have issues with a woman Tucker was dating at the time. In March of that year, the bounty hunter called his son and used several racial slurs when speaking about Tucker's partner. Unknown to Duane, Tucker had recorded the conversation and sold the recording to the National Enquirer. As a result, A&E halted the programming of Duane's reality show for 1 year. In November 2007, he appeared on both Larry King Live and Fox News to address the situation. He told Larry King, "So when Tucker got out, I immediately, started being the dad I wasn't and said, do this, do that, and I tried to take control of his life. He's on parole for a 20-year sentence, and if he messes up, he goes back." Tucker doesn't have a huge presence on social media, but from what we've gathered on Instagram, he's a dog lover and spends a lot of time out in nature. The third child that Duane Chapman and his ex-wife Lyssa Rae Chapman share is daughter Lyssa Rae Chapman, who is named after her mother. Lyssa was born on June 10, 1987. Like some of her older siblings, Lyssa followed in her dad's bounty hunting footsteps and appeared on several of the family's TV shows. According to her bio, Lyssa states that she was the youngest licensed bail bonds person in Hawaii at the age of 18. Lyssa goes by Baby Lyssa and fittingly has a clothing line called Baby by Lyssa Chapman, where she sells comfy clothes, beachwear, and a mini-me collection for young girls. Lyssa also has 2 daughters, Abby Mae Chapman and Madeline Grace Galanti. Lyssa had Abby when she was 15 years old. Abby's father was 24 at the time and was subsequently arrested for statutory rape. Lyssa married Madeline's father, Brahman Bo Galanti, but they divorced in 2011. In 2016, Lyssa started a relationship with Liana Evanson, and the two got engaged in 2017. By the look of things, Lyssa Chapman still seems close with her father, Duane Chapman. However, their relationship has a choppy history. Lyssa spoke with Fox News about the themes in her 2013 memoir, Walking on Eggshells, Discovering Strength and Courage Amid Chaos.
My childhood was a lot different than most girls, playing Barbie at home.
She claimed that Duane was addicted to crack and that her stepmother, Duane's late wife, Beth Chapman, was tough to be around, adding, "I falsely accused my father of raping me when I was 11. I had been molested by a friend of his. It was a horrible life that I never wanted to go back to, living with him and Beth and the fighting and the drugs." Beth Chapman married Duane Chapman in 2006 after beginning a relationship in 1995. They welcomed their first child together, Bonnie Joanne Chapman, on December 16, 1998. As of today, Bonnie is an influencer on social media and shares sponsored content on Instagram related to skincare and makeup. She's also a star on The System, a TV series by Unleashed Entertainment that focuses on social injustice. However, when it comes to her dad, she's had a rocky relationship with her father, especially after her mom passed away from cancer in 2019. Duane remarried Francie Frayne in September 2021, and the nuptials caused an ongoing conflict between Bonnie and the couple. Bonnie accused her father of both racism and infidelity towards the late Beth on Facebook, adding, "I have expressed time and time again my ever-growing disappointment in my father's progression into his old racist ways. I had forgiven my father after my mother's death for countless actions that I shouldn't have. He would cheat on my mom all the time, and I hated him every time he did it. But I forgave him for that because I wanted a relationship with my dad. I was left with the racist and homophobic parent." Bonnie shared her opinion on her father, telling Inside Edition,
"I'm disappointed in you. And my mom would be too, and you know it."
When Duane Chapman married Beth Chapman, he adopted her daughter, Cecily Barmore-Chapman, who was born on June 19, 1993, daughter of a longtime friend of Duane's named Keith Barmore. Duane opened up about Keith in his book, You Can Run But You Can't Hide, writing, "When I heard they got married, I got physically sick. When I heard Barmore was beating on her, I wanted to kill him myself." However, there was one blessing that came from Beth's first marriage, Cecily. Duane later confirmed, "The only good thing that came from their union was Beth's beautiful daughter Cecily, who I love and adore as if she were my own flesh and blood." More recently, Cecily faced some legal drama after she was accused of physically assaulting her boyfriend in 2021. She was arrested in Hawaii after police officers received a call relating to domestic violence, per TMZ, but no charges were filed. Cecily told TMZ, "It was an altercation where a man struck me and said vile things about the memory of my dead mother. If you put your hands on Cecily Chapman, you will get your ass kicked." Aside from the legal drama, Cecily also opened up about her feelings with her dad's new wife, Francie Frayne. She, along with Bonnie, claimed that Duane didn't step up as the father they needed when Beth died.
"We were all a family, we were all working together, we were all doing things together, and it's just not that way anymore."
Cecily noted that she had never been introduced to Francie but was willing to be persuaded to go to the wedding, saying of Duane, quote, "He is still my dad." Duane and Beth Chapman welcomed their second child, Garry Chapman, on February 7, 2001. Garry was raised in Hawaii and later moved to Colorado.
I've lived out here for a year now by myself, and most of the time I'm like, oh, what would mom think of if I did this?
In terms of a career path, Garry has entered law enforcement and shares candid photos of his work life with his fans on Instagram. He captioned one photo of several of his colleagues with his dad, saying, "We've got a great group of guys who have each other's back, watch out for one another, and motivate each other." Garry and Duane appear to have a very close relationship. In a social media post, Duane wrote, "Anyone can give up. It's the easiest thing in the world to do, but to hold it together when everyone else would understand if you fall apart, that's true strength." In June 2020, Garry made headlines after he had an accident while riding a four-wheeler. He suffered an injury to his head and wound up in the ER. In an interview the day after the accident, Duane's wife, Francie Frayne, said that it was her son, Greg, and his wife who were at Garry's side in the hospital, adding, "They're taking care of him now. What they're building is so great." If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic abuse, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also find more information, resources, and support at their website.